Hi traders, and welcome to the Technical Analysis Market Wrap on Friday the 28th of May. So we've seen a bit of sideways action this week. We've been getting reasonable moves within the ranges of a lot of the majors, but nothing has really been breaking out of a zone except the US dollar yen, which we're going to have a look at a little bit later on. But we'll jump straight into the markets and see if we can identify any scalping opportunities for today and early into next week. Alright, so we'll jump straight in here to the Aussie USD on the daily chart, and it is within 10 pips of the magic zone that we talk about every single week, so it's at 77.40. Look, it had that move up to the 78 earlier in the week, and like I said last week, if you're trading the smaller time frames on this one, you know you've got your range pretty much set. You can see your big zones, your 77 and your 78, and it's been pretty easy trading, like even all the way through that zone. You can see that the highs and the lows have been pretty good. I'm just going to move that over a little bit more for you and you'll see what I'm talking about. Even on the 1 hour, the 1 hour is a little bit less, you're not getting as much movement because if you're waiting for the confirmations, you're not really getting there. But as you can see on the smaller time frames, it definitely does it. You got your lower high, lower lows, touches of the 20, and you've got your opportunities to get in and out. Even here you can see you've got your moves up. You've got to remember, when we're trading this one, it's for very small moves. We're only scalping. We know we've only got 100 pips range to work with at this stage, so you're really only going for your 20 or 30 pip scalp. So you don't need a lot of movement, but you can get plenty of scalps. Now I've counted about 8 or 9 quality opportunities this week that you could have taken on the Aussie that we talk about every single week, and every single one of them actually worked out. So hopefully you're able to get some of those. Just follow the rules on the moving averages on the smaller time frames and stick between these two zones. You can see it just rejected completely off that, so it gave it a really good opportunity to break down. It's got its next zone that it can break into is the 77 to 76. I mean, you can see all the prices have been really stagnant right through here, but again, that provides really good trading opportunities on a scalp. So there's nothing wrong with that. It's just a case of understanding what you're working with and making sure you're trading in that sort of style. So this has been a good one. It's getting a bit of a squeeze now between the two moving averages on the daily. You can see that the 50 and the 20. When it breaks out of one of those little zones, it's more than likely going to gravitate to the 78 or to the 77. So whichever zone it breaks out to, jump onto the smaller trends and trade to that direction until we get a clear move out of this one. Alright, move on to the US dollar CAD now. Now this one, it's behaving itself like we said last week. Look, it seems to have found its bottom at this stage. It's that one sort of 20 is holding it very, very strongly. It's tried to have a go up and failed, but it's certainly not giving any signs that it's about to be shorting off anytime soon. So I think you've got to play the game on this one. I'm not really keen on shorting it at this level because it's a very, very strong support. But taking the opportunities on the long side on the scalp is a good way to trade this one. This is a daily. The moving average signal line is nearly out of the histogram, as you can see. So we're starting to get a little bit more positive movement now. We're getting the rejection candles. So what you want to be doing is going to the smaller time frames and looking for that change of trend. So I'll quickly just move over to there, and basically what we want to see, as you could see with the way down, we're looking for that same sequence, but on the way up, of course, we want to see it get above these moving averages, start to make a series of higher highs and higher lows, and when it does that, we'll be able to get involved in this trade. Now, what I'm thinking about on this one is we definitely need to get, the target is 123.20. There's no question about that. That is the logical target for this to go to, but it needs to clear the 20 moving average on the daily before it does that. Okay, so this is a daily chart. That's the 20 moving average on the daily. If we get a close above that level, then I'm going to be comfortable aiming for this zone here, which is the 123.20. But until it does that, it's primarily scalping. Now, you don't have to wait until it actually breaks the 20 moving average to trade it. You can go to the smaller time frames. You can go to the 1 hour if you like. You can see here we've had a lot of stagnant action in the last few hours, but that's not that unusual given the time of day that we're at. But all we need to do is see a series of higher highs and higher lows on the 1 hour or even on a 15-minute and aim for that target. Okay, that's what you want to be doing. Wait for the lightning bolt and then aim for the target that we've got here, which is around the 20 moving average. So that's giving you, that's about the 125.50 level. That's what you'd be aiming for on your scalps. So you go to the 15-minute chart, wait for that to happen, and you're basically going to get, by the time it happens, you're probably only going to get 40 or 50 pips as a scalp, but there's nothing wrong with that. It's a pretty good opportunity to get in and get some good scalping action with pretty tight stop losses because we don't expect that it's going to be testing the lows anytime soon. And of course, you're only going to be putting them behind the last swing. So you should be able to get at least 1-to-1 or 2-to-1 risk rewards on those ones. All right, we'll move on to the US dollar yen now. So this one has been the breakout trade in the last 24 hours. We were talking about this actually only on Wednesday night, and we were saying that it was coiling and it was looking like, a long move was, we kind of were hoping that it would do it the way it did it. On a daily, this is what it does. Like, the problem is this is already in an uptrend. Like, you've already got your series of higher highs and higher lows, even though it was hovering around this area, sitting on the 20 and squeezing up between the moving averages. So the expected move was still in the direction of the trend. So that was good. Hopefully you were able to get hold of a bit of that. And it looks at a very extreme here, but look, you got opportunities on the smaller time frames, and I'll take you through those in a second. When you know that the anticipated direction is in the direction of the trend, it really gives you the opportunity to pay attention to that and actually really want to see it actually play out, of course. But when you're getting these warning signs that the rejections are happening, it does make it a fair bit easier. But you can see now that it's broken past this high. It's actually closed above this high now, and it really wants to probably push up. And I think its next target is probably the 110.50 is where it really wants to go. It could test these highs again, but it can get there very, very quickly. So you want to be taking your trades pretty. You want to wait for the good entry points, of course, but your target's going to be the 110.50, so you wouldn't want to go a hell of a lot more. If you're not on, don't try and squeeze more out of it than is necessary. Definitely save yourself for the biggest portion of the trade. You want at least 30 or 40 pips on this one. Don't go try and scalping it from 10.30 to 10.50, because that just makes it hard, and the risk is not worth the reward at that point. Just be mindful that this is going to hold it up in the very near term. So you want to get a good entry. Go to the smaller time frames now. You can see here, for those of looking for those entries, you had the flatness that we were talking about. Then you had the breakout, went higher here on the 1 hour, so you knew you had your lightning bolt effect. Then it came back and tested the 20, and off she went. Now look, here's the thing: if you weren't around for this 8 or 9 hour period where it was literally testing the 20 right through, you may have missed this trade and you never got a chance to get back in it. But if you were, and there was a good chance, that's a whole trading session that it was actually doing that for, once it did that lightning bolt effect, we were off and running. So that was a really good opportunity. Failing that, the 15-minute chart, that was a bit similar though. Once it got going, it never really gave you a chance to get in. You could have got in on the smaller time frames down here if you were actually scalping it, but more than likely you probably would have been waiting for the bigger move, and once that happened, it didn't really come back. Now it finds itself at that point of support again off the 20 moving average. It's got a little bit more work to do now. It's got a 110 right in front of it. Doesn't mean it's not going to break it. It probably will, but you just know you've got that little bit of more extra work to do. So for me, I think I would probably rather it come back down and test this roll reversal zone here around that sort of 109, sort of 70 to 65 area. If it came back and tested that on a smaller time frame, I think that would give it the launching pad it needs to start pushing higher. So good trade. Hopefully you got involved in that move from here, and just wait for a bit of a pullback before you get excited about this one, being very mindful that this target in front of it is going to be a pretty solid brick wall. Once it gets there, we would anticipate that it's going to pull it up pretty quickly. All right, we'll go on to the dollar index. Now, the dollar index has been showing a little bit of strength over the last couple of days. I've been pretty happy with it, actually. It's found its bottom. It appears to have found a support. So now it's looking to push higher. You go to the smaller time frames. Look, the candle bodies are all fairly big. So you're getting basically the opposing side winning every single time a day closes, but it really wants to close higher now. I'm not going to take this seriously until it actually closes above the 20 moving average. Hasn't done that in a long time, as you can see. So really where you want to see a daily close above this 20, that's going to have to break this mini resistance zone that was support previously. Once it breaks past that and gets up here, we can start taking this a bit more seriously and start looking for longs past the 91, and that's going to have a big effect on the dollar-based pairs, of course. So, but looking good, this one. You can see that the changes of trend are happening. You can see that we're getting the lightning bolt effects on the smaller ones, so it bodes well for the long on that one. The euro is the one that you'd actually short. This is the one that's been pulled up quite heavily at this level. You can see this is a daily chart. Every day has been a bit of a war. All of them are basically filling each other out, but this is the first time in quite a while. As you can see here, we had very little action, an indecisive candle in yesterday's trade, and it looks like it wants to break short, just like the dollar index. It looks like it wants to go along. The logical target for this one will be the 20 moving average at around that 121 sort of 40 area. It's only 40 or 50 pips, but you've got to trade this one for a little bit of caution. It's only a scalp at the moment. Until we get a very clear break, this is only a scalp, but this level makes a lot of sense from the standpoint that it was resistance through here, and you would think it would provide some sort of support when the 20 arrives. So just be mindful, it's only about 40 or 50 pips. Look for those smaller time frames, changes of trend, wait for a bit of a break here, You'll see that happen pretty quickly on a 15-minute chart. Series of higher highs, higher lows, test the 20 moving average, and we're off and running. We've got our target fairly well set, and it's a scalping opportunity. They're all scalps at the moment until we get some clear direction. Everything we're looking at is scalping opportunities, okay? But they're good ones, so yeah, certainly don't ignore them, but just be mindful that you're trading what you see, and what we're seeing is a pretty range-bound market overall. All right, the last one we're going to have a look at today is the US 500, so one that interests everybody the most. It's been very, very stagnant over the last 3 or 4 days. We've had that bit of a move off the off this reversal zone here, off the 50, but since then, the last 3 days have been very, very flat. I don't expect that we're going to see a lot of action on this one at the moment. We're approaching those all-time highs again. As you can see, we know we're going to trade this one with a lot of caution at this point. We can go to the smaller time frames. And this is where the first reversals are going to come. So if we go to a 15-minute chart, we know exactly where our target is. So actually what I'll do, I'll actually pop this particular line right up there. So this is where we know we're aiming for, okay? When we go to a 15-minute chart, bring that down a little bit. This is what we're aiming for. This is our target. That's the all-time high. It may not go down before it tests it again, and it may well break through it this time. So the only thing we can really do here, this is absolutely scalping again. We've got no long-term direction, so we're only going for small, short and sharps. But tests of the 20 moving average on a 15-minute chart will be your best point of call. Just be mindful that this is going to be a brick wall when it hits it. So if you're going to take your profit, take it around there or just before there. If you go to a 1 hour, you can actually see the same thing. It's been pretty flat over the last, like I said, the last 2 days have been really, really ordinary, and you would have been hard pressed to actually get some movement. But as you can see, we've got a bit of a change of trend on the 1 hour happening now, and it's starting to break out. It has broken to a new mini high. So this may continue throughout tonight's trading session. Just keep an eye on this one. If we get a bit more of a pullback, you might get an entry point around this level here, but just be mindful that is what you're aiming for. Don't be looking too far past that, because you're going to have a bit of trouble getting through there. Failing that, if it reverses and breaks down this low here, so if we get a series of lower highs and lower lows, even on a smaller time frame, and we break that 141.80, that's been a pretty solid level for it. You can see right through there, resistance, resistance, support, 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 right through there. Okay, if it breaks that level there, it really opens itself up again for the 140 or the 41.30 area, and then maybe into the 4,000s again. So it can play it both ways. My preferred trade is definitely on the short on this, only because the room that we've got to move with here is not very big. You're only talking about maybe 15, 20 points by the time it actually gets in. Whereas if it does reverse, the trade going down gives you a lot more opportunity to actually get a better trade in. So it's always about the risk versus the reward. To me, although it can definitely go up there, I'm looking for the short. So it's not really a quality opportunity going long because the range is too small, but going down is a good long range opportunity. So set your alerts for that one, and we'll see how we go. So I hope everyone's had a great week's trading. I think there have been some really good opportunities on the right time frames. Hopefully you are able to get involved in some of those. And yeah, we'll see how we go next week. Hopefully we'll break out of some of these ranges, or at the very least continue the smaller trends. Have a great weekend, everyone. I'll see you next week.